Welcome to the Barry Podcast, presented by the Joe Blow Football Show. I'm one of your hosts, Jamie G. Esquire the Fifth, and I'm here with my co-host, Magnum Mills, and we're going to break down all things Barry, dude. Yeah, Barry.
Hey, and we hope you're having a very good day. I'm Magnum Mills. Thank you for checking us out. We're the Barry Podcast, like the man said. Find us on your favorite podcast platform by searching for the Barry Podcast, on social media at Barry Podcast. And like I said, we're from the Joe Blow Football Show. We're at JoeBlowFootballShow.com, on social media at Joe Blow Show. Thanks for checking us out, and we're about to do this thing.
Yeah, and just a reminder here, folks, we will 100% be spoiling all aired episodes of Barry, as well as any major media interviews or appearances. We will not be discussing any leaks or rumors, just every episode up through episode 2 of season 3. Magnum Mills, hit us with the details of this episode.
Now, well, Cristobal says it better than me, but this is episode 2 of season 3, Limonada, originally aired Sunday, May 1st, 2022, directed again by Bill Hader, written by, again, Bill Hader and Alec Berg. The short plot synopsis is: Barry learns the extent of Gene's storied Hollywood history. Cristobal and Hank face a major setback when Cristobal's father-in-law, Fernando, unexpectedly arrives in Los Angeles looking to take out the Chechens and bring Cristobal home.
Thank you for that, Mills. And as usual, we are well on our way to getting shit done while being totally chill. Now, let's start breaking down Limonada.
First off, we open in a fast food restaurant. Barry's sitting there waiting for his order, and he picks up 2 number 3s with Diet Cokes. He gets his change and heads out to the parking lot. He opens the trunk, and we see, hey, Gene still in the trunk. Barry gives Gene his food, his drink, and his change. Gene asked for a minute to eat the sandwich, but Barry said there's no time because they have big plans.
I mean, how great is this dude? He's just got him. He's just casually strolling through the parking lot, opens up the trunk, hands him his sandwich and drink. I mean, this is fantastic.
Yeah, I think the initial shot is from inside the restaurant. So we're like looking past the customers and through the front window of the restaurant to see him open the trunk and Hank kind of pop out like one of those arcade game Johnskis. Do you think Barry, like, he might have to kill him? He's trying to get him a job. He still made him pay for his own food. He's going to make him eat it in the trunk and pay for it. I mean, I guess Gene should be glad he got his change back.
He did bring him back his change.
He's like, oh, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for that. No, that was just great. I love Barry and Gene Cousineau on cam together. Phenomenal chemistry.
Yeah.
Magnum Mills, you ever find yourself in the trunk of a car?
Yeah, I was gonna say, for record, once upon a time I'd volunteered to be trunk guy because A, you could ride for free, and B, you got to pick the tunes. Those were the rules. But yeah, dude, riding in a trunk, especially if there is absolutely anything else in the trunk, very bad, very dark. Unless you're Danny DeVito size, you're gonna have to kind of scrunch up or whatever. Long story short, Gene has like 0 chance of being able to actually eat any of that food in there. Although later on, it looks like he somehow managed to do it. So, you know, maybe Mr. Cousineau was more of a survivor than we thought.
That he shall be. After the title card, we're in the writer's room on Joplin. Sally is worried that the dialogue is too perfectly worded and suggests maybe throwing a few ums in there. Katie Harris, who plays Sally's daughter on the show, is there, and you can tell that she absolutely loves Sally and looks up to her as a role model. Barry shows up, and Sally is a bit confused as she doesn't remember asking him to show up. Barry explains that he needs her to give Gene a role on the show. Sally says that she suggested him during the casting process, but she got shut down. Barry says that since she's the boss, couldn't she just do it anyways? Sally says that she's sorry, but she can't. She asks if Barry is okay, as he seems a little manic. Little is an understatement. Barry is on the verge of absolutely losing it here, and he starts screaming at her about not being on the same page. The other writers run out of the room while Katie looks on in terror. Sally doesn't quite know what to do here, so she responds by laughing. This triggers Barry even further as he approaches Sally while still yelling at the top of the lungs. Eventually, Sally is backed up against the wall, and Barry is right in her face. Pretty scary situation here. He asks one more time for her to cast Gene, and she says once again she's sorry, but she already tried and she can't. Barry says shit and leaves as abruptly as he entered. Katie is still sitting on the couch, absolutely mortified here. Sally sighs, sits down at her laptop, and gets back to work. really intense scene here, and not super cool, dude. Not a fan of couples fighting and yelling and aggressive behavior.
And especially this has to be bad for Sally, right? I mean, we know she has a very deep personal history with abusive relationships. She's making a show about abuse in here. I think that's why, I think Katie is really, into that. She talks about she's doing her one woman show or whatever. So you can just see on her face that she's just, wow, like this is nuts. Like, what do we do? And Sally's like, oh, all right, gotta get back to work, just like, here we go again, kind of, or I don't know. It was just, you could kind of tell she was almost just like, I can't deal with this right now. I'm just not even going to process it. I can't even right now. That's how I read it, at least, to me.
Yeah, and can we just dub this version of Barry that we see as Scary Barry? Because he is very scary Barry. I mean, this reminds me of that breakthrough scene when he freaking, back in, I think it was season 1, where he throws the desk and like pins up against the wall, and he has that, and the whole acting class falls in love with him, and like it's like his moment. Well, this is that type of behavior. It's definitely Scary Barry, to say the least.
Yeah, I actually thought that maybe it was going to be a thing where after she left, then Barry would realize like, oh shit, I'm going too far, and like play it off like he was doing like in a bid or an audition or something like that. And we're like, oh, that was so good. But they really go there this time. In those other times, he was really tapping into that real dark emotional place. He's doing it here, but now there's no veneer or no framing it. He is just, he's on a mission, so to speak, here. And you see that's what happens. And when she just says she can't, he's like, all right, he can't deal either. He's on to the next thing. He's on to plan B, even though he tells him it's plan B. There is no plan. He has to keep going because he doesn't want to have to do what he knows he's going to have to do if he doesn't find a way out of this.
Yeah, and I think at one point he even says like in order for him to leave, he has to for him to live, he has to make this happen. Like kind of like all in, or like there is no life after this kind of thing. Dude, one thing that was interesting is like you kind of learn throughout this episode that no one likes Gene. Like Gene Cousineau must have been a massive asshole or something. Like I thought, I don't remember that from season 1 or 2, with him being totally blackballed from the industry for being a dick.
No, I think I remember listening to Hater interview basically say like they more kind of figured that he was just wasn't like that good. He was just kind of a bit, background kind of minor player actor. And it's kind of evolved into this because I think it was more interesting. And that's one thing I do want to hear is more stories about just how bad he was back in the day. Those seem fun. And anything else on the because I've got some more fun stuff from the scene, but anything else you want to comment kind of on the darker parts of the scene here before I lighten it up a little bit?
Well, I just thought that we should probably just say a few words about how great the backup actors and actresses were. Like the background actors were awesome. I mean, they really made this even feel more intense than what it was. Like it felt like it was really happening and you were there in the room, and that would have been your reaction to some crazy awkward shit like that. I thought they did a great job here.
You can tell also because they work in Hollywood on movie sets or whatever that this isn't their first rodeo, because some kind of turn their face, others kind of lean in and rubberneck. So you get kind of the whole range of ways you could deal with this. And I guess the one last thing I think is here when, Barry talks about Gene needs his job because he needs a purpose. He's talking about himself, right? I mean, as much as he's talking about Gene, this is Barry projecting himself onto Gene. And I think that's, kind of the deal why he loves Mr. Cousineau so much, as he kind of sees something he could be or some part of himself or something like that. So I think there's definitely a level of projection going on here too.
Yeah.
And somehow if he fixes this with Mr. Cousineau, that'll fix everything that's wrong with him right now.
He absolutely is manic and is not in a good place from a mental health standpoint.
So now that we did that, that was a very serious scene, but there were a couple of fun bits here. And you talked about the kind of the background actors. And in one point when Barry first comes in and he starts like talking about getting Gene the job, and he says, I know how to get Cousineau over the murder of his girlfriend. You cast him on your show. And everyone in the background's like looking like, what? And you can even hear somebody go, what? It's just so outlandish. And then he totally does the phrasing thing when they come in. I'm betting they did this deliberately, because right when he walks in, Sally's like, am I forgetting? Did I ask you to come?
Yeah, that's
and then Barry's like, no, I came on my own. You don't set up, that's what she said. That, like, just saying, that felt pretty set up to me, and I got a couple of good laughs out of it. And that's pretty much it. But it was definitely a scene that started out like, oh, maybe this is going to be kind of funny, to ending being like very terrifying. So great scene overall, I think.
Yeah, great job pointing out some of the humor there, Magnum Mills. I mean, a dark scene like that.
Yeah, you got to light it up, and that's what Barry's great at.
That's why I love Barry.
You
I
can't
mean, I was just gonna
classify
say,
it, right? It has a scene that is maybe the most terrifying we've ever seen Barry, for the most part, at least in a domestic standpoint, not on the job. And it's also opens with like fun stuff where you want to be like, oh, that's what she said, and just him doing this outlandish stuff, and yeah, it just it all works for me.
Yeah, works well. Love that about Barry. Magnum Mills. We're then back at Plants. NoHo Hank gets a call from Cristobal, who wants to meet up. Hank makes a big show of saying how he'll be gone all day. They hang up, and Cristobal is about to cross the street. His house is on to go buy some limonada from some neighborhood girls. As he steps into the street, multiple black SUVs roll up, and many men with guns exit the vehicle. Cristobal's father-in-law, Fernando, has arrived from Bolivia to help him defeat the Chechens.
Dude, there's so many good things going on here. Also, welcome to the show, Miguel Sandoval. You've seen him in like a billion things, including Fair Game, which I keep bringing up for some reason. He was like he maybe played Pedro Escobar, like Clear and Present Danger or whatever. Dude's been in, he's also a prolific voice actor. He's just one of those guys, where you see him and you're like, oh, that's the guy. And I think he's perfect for a show like Barry. And when he comes in, he's just got the humor down, because, he starts talking about, he's obviously really likes his SUV we'll talk about, but when he's talking to Cristobal, and Cristobal's like, oh yeah, did you come here all the way from Bolivia? Fernando's like, yes, but not in this. It's a rental. He flew. Just, perfect timing, deadpan humor. I hope somehow that, I obviously want Cristobal and Hank to be able to get back together or whatever, but I hope that they don't do it by having to kill Fernando or whatever, because I'd like to keep him around. I like him and Batir as additions to the show here. I think they could both be great kind of, secondary, guys in these crime syndicates.
100%, dude. And I gotta say, man, the one thing that stood out to me was the lemonade stand girls. As the SUV pulls up, and we see all this commotion, guys hop out, they got guns. One of the kids just straight up takes off and runs. The other one just sits there. I mean, she just sits there stunned, just like very funny, dude. It's the little things in Barry that just do this.
The little things, like, but we actually hear Fernando before we see him, because guys are trying to open the door from the outside, and he's inside yelling like, wait for me to unlock it before you pull it. Because if you've ever, this is again coming from a real place, like people in the writer's room shout, that's happened to me, it's happened to all of us, especially someone's pressing the button at the same time and now especially because some of them will like open if you touch it the right way. And so everybody just practice good door opening etiquette, I guess is all I can say, because it can be very frustrating.
Yes, I have been in that argument so many times, to stop touching things. If anybody who has kids, they've been there. I mean, this is very, very cool.
Real quick question here. Just like we see Hank being all sneaky on the phone when he answers a call from Cristobal. Like Batir knows, right? Like,
he's
remember them
hugging
with like the leg up thing in front of, like, Batir seems like that kind of like very competent henchman, but he just doesn't say much. He knows, right? When I have to go all the way out there, I will be going all day, like he doesn't even really. I think that at least Batir knows, if not all the guys, right?
I think that,
I don't think it's a big secret like they think it is, put it that way.
I don't think so. And I think that also adds to kind of the cuteness of it and the humor behind it.
Because it's like a forbidden love kind of thing. They're literally doing the Romeo and Juliet thing.
Yeah.
Romeo and Romeo, I guess, whatever.
And shout out to just the actor who plays Cristobal here. You can just see the fear, the dread, all this emotion on Cristobal's face when Fernando hugs him, like, oh shit, my gig is up. I no longer have it made here.
Right, because we always kind of thought he was like one of the more top dogs or whatever, but I guess, hey, there's always a bigger dog out there, a bigger bear, or a bigger wolf, whatever you want to say.
After that, we see Barry trying to get onto a studio lot. Gene is still in the trunk, and Barry admits that he doesn't know what the plan is. He goes up to Allison Jones' office, and she wonders why he ghosted them after his swim instructor's audition, because he was really good. He tries to get Allison to give a part to Gene, but she is not interested at all. However, she likes Barry's intensity and thinks that he might be a good fit for a different part. She sets up him with an audition later in the day on the show Laws of Humanity. Barry seems to accept the audition here. I just got to say, Magnum Mills, I thought this was hilarious, as he's literally yelling yelling at Gene in the trunk as the person's coming up to the window. I mean, this is just really, really funny shit for me, dude, as they're communicating as Gene's in the trunk and he's in the front seat.
Yeah, this is, yes, just it is very, like, again, this is Hollywood. I think that's part of the joke, is that the security guard is like Dr. J. He's been there, he's done that. This is he's an old hand at this. Like, oh, person in the trunk, or maybe guys. Again, you get actors that are probably rehearsing with themselves, right, or something. So he just maybe assumes like Barry's rehearsing his, like, both sides of a scene or something like that. Is how I would guess.
I gotta laugh here at Gene saying he's been in the trunk too long and he can't feel his legs. And what broke me a little bit here was, and you might not know this, but that's definitely a stroke symptom. It's just so funny to me. I don't know why. I just found that to be hilarious.
Oh, dude, and Allison is so great because we get a callback before. Remember when she first liked Barry, the thing kept being like, oh, and he's tall. Like, she kept pointing out that he was tall. And so when she talks about the swim instructor choice, she's like, oh, they went with Adam Devine and Josh Gad, two short guys, never ever going to work. And then you see the poster, and it's like the worst Photoshop job you've ever seen. I'm assuming that was deliberately intentional because they knew they were going to focus the shot on it. So it just has to be like, that's how little of a shit the studio gives about that film, that they're like, oh yeah, we're just I let my kid do the poster for his homework assignment or something like that. It just seems like she doesn't think short guys can be funny. I'm just guessing she's never met Danny DeVito.
Yeah, she must not know about Frank Reynolds. That's all I gotta say. And again, we get more of Gene being an asshole. Back in the day, I guess he was literally the worst, but I don't know, man. I kind of want a few more stories, Magnum Mills.
Oh, I want, dude. I'm here for the Gene Cousineau flashback episode where we kind of get like his life, and it's just Henry Winkler and bad wigs and stuff. Like, I don't care, like Danny DeVito style. He's playing himself when he's 18 and just a stupid wig or whatever. It's fine. I'll roll with it. I think that would be awesome to just kind of follow his career. Maybe if you can't have to figure, right? At one point, he was probably an up and coming dude, which is how he still wound up with enough juice to do his own acting class or something. But like, and he did something, and maybe, he got to be a big star and started being more and more of an asshole. And then, I don't know, I'm writing the stories in my head, but I think obviously the Barry writers could do it better. So I'd really, really like them to do that. I think it would be cool. And Allison gets one more good line here. The one she gives to Barry, she's like, oh, I like your intensity. You have like a not present Joaquin Phoenix thing going, which seems to be like, that's what, studios will want these days. So, good for Barry. He's giving them what they want.
He gives the people what they want. From there, we're at Fernando's Airbnb, and Fernando's men are unwinding in the most homoerotic scene since Top Gun. Cristobal stares at the shirtless, drinking men and seems to be wondering why this is okay for them, but not for him. Fernando wants to drink with Cristobal. He's in a good mood because this Airbnb is fantastic. Cristobal wants to know if Elena sent Fernando. He says yes. His daughter misses Cristobal, as do his children. Fernando says that it's okay that Cristobal has had a hard time establishing a foothold in LA. Fernando is going to help him shut down the Chechkins and open up shop. Then Cristobal will be free to return home.
So Fernando is the DMX in this situation. He's gonna, stop, drop, shut it down, open up shop. And again, Fernando with the line, this Airbnb is fantastic. It's just so, he's got that NoHo Hank energy. That's all I can say there. I want a scene between them now. I didn't even think about that before, but they're gonna have a scene together at some point. I cannot wait for the scene between NoHo Hank and Fernando. Like, that's way up there on the list of scenes I'm looking forward to right now. I think that's gonna be just fantastic.
100%.
The bar has been set really high, so now I'm scared.
Dude, 100%. I thought this was really cool too, because again, I don't know that they're necessarily trying to say something about just how ridiculous, it is to have to, unfortunately, you feel like you have to hide being gay. That really sucks. But I thought it was really cool how they kind of showed that scene where, clearly it was meant to, we've got guys with their shirts off,
Again, it's like the Top Gun shirtless volleyball scene, but they're like they're all vibing with it. Everyone seems to be having a good time. Fernando doesn't seem to, Tony Soprano would not have been approving of that of something. So it seems like Fernando really wouldn't give a shit, except for the fact that Cristobal happens to be married to his daughter. So at least you can understand it's a little personal for him. It's not necessarily because of who Cristobal is or what he does. It's because he married his daughter and had his grandkids. So
and that's another reason why we know Hank and Cristobal wanted to have their relationship kept a
Right. It
secret
makes more
here.
sense now that it's not just to keep it from their henchmen or something like that. Like there's more
Right.
levels to this.
Right.
Yeah, because again, like I don't think Batir would give a shit. I don't even know who I guess there's still more people at home, but at this point, as long as Batir doesn't care, I think Hank's fine. And same thing here, really. We thought Cristobal was kind of the guy until Fernando showed up, but sucks, ultimately for Cristobal and Hank having to separate. But again, they're doing the Romeo and Juliet thing like Fernando, so I'm with it. After that, we go back to the Joplin set, and Sally's about to shoot a scene, but she forgets a line. And then when she gets the line, she realizes that she wants to change it because she keeps saying the same line constantly. The cast gets a break while Sally works on the script. Katie goes over to the other writer who was present during the confrontation between Barry and Sally and asks if she's okay. The writer says, yeah, but it was really scary. Katie wants to do something like report Barry to somebody, but HR won't work because Barry doesn't work there. And since Barry didn't really do anything except act menacing, there's not much the police can do. Katie is very upset, but the other writer leaves saying she really likes her job.
Yeah, I mean, that was so great. I mean, Katie's sitting there saying, I mean, he's clearly a violent person. And the writer just looks and says, they're adults and I like my job, closes her computer and just walks away. I mean, that was I enjoyed that.
Yeah, and I think there's something to be said about the line that Sally forgot, and then she realized she's saying constantly, and that's, I don't want you to make the same mistakes. In an episode where we see Barry kind of confront her in a manner that must at least be somewhat reminiscent of how her abusive ex did, I think that line really has to kind of ring home a little bit here as is something maybe that's so true. Maybe that's even why she wants to change it right here, because she doesn't even want to say it right now because it hits too close to home.
Could totally see that
And,
happening.
and,
And then
not much else here other than I did. Bill Hader was talking about the episode on the Ringer Prestige TV podcast, and they talked about this scene. And the main thing they said is when they first did it, there really wasn't this scene. It was just kind of Katie was uncomfortable, and they felt they had to do something. And they sat there and started talking about like, all right, what would you actually do? And they started, well, can you report it to HR and this like that? And he was like, oh, well, that's the scene. So that's kind of how they came up with what they did. It's like, what would people actually do in this situation? So I thought overall it seemed pretty realistic and rang true.
Yeah, yes, it did. And from there, Magnum Mills, we now seem to be at what looks like some sort of pumping station, I suppose. And Gene is not impressed at all that Barry went into the studio to get him a job and instead came out with an audition for himself. Barry wants Gene to help him with the scene, and Gene asks him, quite frankly, if he's out of his fucking mind. Gene once again swears that Barry lets him go. He'll never say anything and won't go out and talk to the cops. Barry tells him that he's a bad actor. Gene doesn't want Barry to hold him until he books a part because that could literally take years. He thinks Barry's plan sucks, and he again vows he would never say a word if Barry lets him go. Barry says that it's this or he has to kill him. Gene tells Barry that he's a good guy who did a horrible thing. He reminds Barry that Barry came to him full of pain, and Gene not only taught him how to act, but taught him how to be a good human being. He can't believe that Barry is going to repay him by killing him. After a pause, Barry says, I love you, Mr. Cousineau. Gene says that he appreciates that, and immediately Barry goes back into talking about the scene for his audition.
Yeah, again, it just Gene gets all the bangers here. Like, right, start out with, so let me get this straight. You went in to get me apart and you got yourself apart. That's the one instance where like the way he says that, you're like, oh, so this would have been okay if you got the part, maybe. And then same thing, like just the full line what you said. So you're gonna hold me hostage until you book me apart. That's not the way it works. We're talking about me here. That could take years. And again, just Henry Winkler, the delivery there. That's why he's got that Emmy statue for this role. It's just so perfect. And the big monologue he does is huge because later on you're going to see Barry basically repurpose this argument or this monologue to get him and Mr. Cousineau what he thinks he needs. And Gene you're one of the good guys, Barry, but you did a horrible thing. But I see your pain. It's the same pain you came to me with, fresh out of the army, a lost soul. No one to tell you your worth. I took you in. Not only did I teach you to be a good actor, I taught you to be a good human being. And this is how you repay me? By killing me? All Barry can say is, I love you, Mr. Cousineau, which we will also see come back around by the end of the episode. So again, excellent job with the writing here.
Yeah, and one little interesting thing is we've noticed this kind of throughout two episodes here now, episode 1 and episode 2, where Sally, kind of ends every phone conversation with Barry saying, I love you. And Barry just kind of hangs up, and doesn't say it back. He did tell Mr. Cousineau straight up, I love you, Mr. Cousineau. I'm not sure he said it to Sally yet. At
I
least not on
agree.
camera.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I don't think he has. Same way, like last, he was willing to tell NoHo Hank about all the problems, like he's seeing things and everything. He wouldn't tell anybody else that. So it seems that even though he's in theory closest to Sally, he's not actually really what, like 90% of his life with her is a lie, probably. So Barry says Gene's bad actor, but I thought for the most part he was selling it pretty good. Any thoughts on Gene as an actor?
Yeah, I mean, he was, but I never really believed him that he wasn't going to go to the cops. I mean, I still think he was just saying anything to help him survive and get out of the situation.
It's funny because you start getting into that Tropic Thunder level, right? Because he's like a guy playing a guy playing a guy. So I just always enjoy when we start doing the Russian nesting doll thing like that. You know what? Something that was real fun here. We go back to plants. We're kind of on the sidewalk, and there's a woman walking by on her phone complaining that she just left the worst date ever. She's really not exaggerating. This dude ordered milk with dinner. And the camera kind of keeps panning over, and we see Fernando's men, and they're raiding plants. They raid, but no one's there. Cristobal had texted a warning to Hank, who took his guys out on a bus tour of the city, and they don't suspect a thing. Right from the chick opening, that's so random, and then down to seeing Hank's guys, and then you realize that's the whole mob. It's like just the 4 guys,
Yeah.
and they're alone on top of the bus, flipping out about like the dinosaur or whatever. And then Batir drops an absolute gem on him because they start talking about Jimmy Kimmel, and he's like, "The man show does not age well." I think it's his only line of the episode, and it's a total banger. So shout out Batir.
Yep, and I think we heard the Africa cover again as as Fernando's men walked into plants. So that was pretty cool. Maybe that's just always playing in plants.
For a split second, I thought it was one of those things where you see that in movies sometimes when it's like a trap. Like you hear the song you heard playing before, then the power turns on or off. So I thought when that went on, I'm like, oh shit, did NoHo Hank like pull the reverse Uno card or whatever? Didn't work out that way. But I thought that would have been, pretty cool. And again, Fernando, couldn't tell if he's got an Escalator or Suburban, but I started doing math in my head, dude. All right, 14 cup holders.
Wow. 14, man. That's quite a rental.
Even if you go 4 up front, 2 in the doors, that's 6. Another 2 that fold down 8. 2 more in those doors, that's fine. And then you go 2 in the back, you're only at 10. Even if you put quads in the third row, you're still only at 12. So where are the other 2 cup holders, man? This is gonna drive me crazy.
They got to be
assuming you're counting the cup holders in the door that no one ever uses unless you have a gigantic ass coffee mug that won't fit anywhere else.
There's got to be a three spotter in there somewhere.
I gave a 4 up front.
There's got to be another 4
too.
Yeah,
I bet in both of these Escalades and Suburbans. There's not 4. I'm just curious, man. Like, he said it's a rental, so it's not. They made it a real point just to say 14 cup holders. So I feel like somebody in the writer's room actually sat down and figured out where all those cup holders would be, because otherwise, why exactly say 14?
I'm sure they did. Let us know.
Maybe not everyone has the touch of the OCD or whatever, but I really
and if anybody's taken a ride in an Escalade or a Suburban and they've counted 14 fucking cup holders, please reach out to us at Barry Podcast and let us know exactly where these 14
photographic evidence
cup holders
were.
Too,
yeah. I actually want to know where they're geographically located within the vehicle.
Send your pics, bro. Pics or it didn't happen.
Cup holder pics or it didn't happen, dude. You want to see are you asking people to see their cups? Yeah, like the cup holders. Well, we don't mean the bras for the breasts. We mean physical cup holders.
Yep, like literal cup holders.
Actual cup holders.
Not certified ball cup holders, but like actual cup holders. Magnum Mills
episode yet.
We haven't gotten there. We're back on the Joplin set. Sally is trying to order some spaghetti for Barry. Not carbonara. That's too fancy. Just some regular old spaghetti. Sally is told that Lindsay is in her office. Lindsay just got off the phone with the studio, and they're worried about another show with a similar premise. As a result, they're moving the release date of Joplin up to the end of this week. Also, Sally is going to have to do a press junket tomorrow. Lindsay and Natalie want to talk strategy, but Sally has to go pick up some spaghetti.
Dude, the idea that they're pitching like this is the show they're worried about is the title is Pam ! In the poster for the show. You'll see it if you're watching on YouTube. It's just a chick with a martini glass as big as her head. And I just love that. Tells like, wait, this is a show about abuse, because you get the great exchange between Natalie and Lindsay, where Natalie's like, "Oh, wait, look at the glass; it's so big. And like, oh, it's cute." And I say, "She loves to drink," and that's Sally says, "Oh, that's a show about abuse." Like that's That's kind of how that's how it is with drinking, right? It's either cute or it goes into abuse real fast.
Yeah. Well, I mean, God, could you see the size of those olives? I mean, that was just incredible.
Oh, and you're the Sally quote too. You didn't. The whole thing wasn't in the recap. It's like, no, not a carbonara. That's too fancy. Just like a regular spaghetti. I mean, do you guys have a kids menu? Dude, just the thought of Barry, this fucking hitman, eating off the kids menu. It's it's
It's
hysterical to me. I
great.
don't know why. It's just, especially because we saw kind of the fast food place before or whatever. It's like just eating a donut. Like, man, is Barry a little bit more just really simpler than we thought, maybe, or something
Well,
like that?
and the thing I like about this show and what Barry does so well is they take this super dark thing, being a hitman, murder for hire, all this stuff, but then they incorporate the opposite spectrum of silly and cute and humor that's kind of really light. And it just works so freaking well. It's basically a giant yin yang, and Magnum Mills, your boy Jamie G. Esquire the fifth, is there for it.
Ah, so you're one of the yin yang twins, I see. So that's cool. And we get one more spaghetti drop because they talk about the press junket tomorrow. And Lindsay's like, can we talk strategy? So I was like, nah, I gotta go pick up some spaghetti. Lindsay's like, we should really talk about it because it's tomorrow. And then Alice says, but she needs to get spaghetti. Shout out Natalie for understanding the importance of spaghetti.
Yeah,
Just
I
ask,
mean,
Charlie Kelly. If you don't believe it, ask Charlie Kelly because
I'll tell you
you
about the
know,
spaghetti policy. I mean, they have a clear-cut spaghetti policy here, and that's really important. And shout
yeah,
out to Night Pod Cometh. Check out that podcast that we do because it's all things always sunny. And yeah, we know about Charlie's spaghetti policy.
very cool. And after that, we see Barry finally arrive for that audition he booked earlier in the day. Gene's still in the trunk when he leaves for it. Barry auditions, and it just seems to go okay. But then he tells the casting people he really needs this job, and he asks for a small part for Gene. And he tells them the name, Gene Cousineau, and they wonder, hey, is that the guy who brought a loaded gun to the Full House audition? Barry says everyone deserves a second chance, but the casting guy says that's not how it works. Barry then launches into a version of the monologue about how he met Mr. Cousineau, literally cribbing from the monologue that Gene gave to him earlier. And the casting of people appear to be impressed by this.
Yeah, I mean, Barry, again, just the desperation is just so intense here, right? I mean, it's just screaming off of him as he says, I really need this job. And the casting guy's like, yeah, I know. Everyone does. We'll get back to you. Okay. I mean, just this just worked so well for me.
The one thing that you have to consider here is the casting guys, they might not need him too, because they're saying this shoots tomorrow. His audition was at 6 p.m. They kind of got to make that call pretty quick, you would think, right? Because this feels like it's for a speaking role or something. This is just background. So it feels like they're pretty late in the game here. I think, maybe Barry does have a little bit of leverage.
Yeah. I mean, that was probably their last,
Yeah, that's what she said last slot when she gave
reading.
the
And
interview. So
we did get a little bit of a Gene Cousineau story, bro. And I love this because, Barry's basically trying to get Gene in there. His name's Gene Cousineau. And the casting guy's like, Gene Cousineau, that's your acting teacher? And the other casting guy's like, that's the guy that brought the loaded gun to the Full House edition.
yeah, the other casting guy's like, yeah, when Allison cast him on Family Ties, he called her a donkey witch, and he's saying Allison. So that's, I'm assuming, the Allison we met with earlier, and
Love
he
it.
called her a donkey witch. So again, very solid writing here, and I really, 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 really want more Gene back in his Hollywood heyday stories. Please, just more of that. Again, all of that. I'll take an entire episode of that, or do a spinoff. I don't know, whatever. Just I want it, please, and thank you.
Yeah,
After
and
that,
yep, and I was just gonna say Magnum Mills. We do see Barry lean into everybody deserves a second chance and basically kind of regurgitate what Gene said to him earlier. But son of a bitch, it was so crazy, it just worked.
that's Barry, dude. He doesn't get a lot of auditions, but when he gets them, he nails them. And we go back to Hank at his house, and he's checking his phone, waiting to hear back from Cristobal. And then Cristobal shows up in person. Hank gives him a long hug. He then asks who the fuck Fernando is and why he's trying to kill them. Cristobal explains that Fernando is the head of the family. He's brought his elite soldiers, and Hank has no chance against them, so he needs to run. Hank wants to talk to him, but Cristobal is not having it. He's too worried that something could happen to Hank, and he couldn't handle that. Hank then realizes that Cristobal is breaking up with him. Cristobal tells Hank goodbye. He touches his face longingly and then leaves. Hank stares wordlessly at the door as Cristobal leaves, frozen by these sudden revelations. And again, Hank, just the all-star here. Right away, just the delivery on what the fuck is going on? Who's Fernando? Why is Fernando trying to kill us? Just bang, bang, question, question, question. Just, and then again, kind of how he picks up on just kind of like all of a sudden, like, wait, like, are you breaking up with me? Or just dropping the like in there? Just classic NoHo Hank.
Bro, I broke down a little bit and just had to pause it and just fucking rewatch it right away because this was so funny to me. But when when Cristobal attempts to do the bird sound,
it's supposed to be like intimidating for the elite soldiers, or it's not even as intimidating and Always Sunny when they do like the birds of war, like the fight like a crow. It's not even that.
It was so good. Dude. It was like
Las Aquilas.
It just worked so good for me. Man, that was one of my favorite parts of the episode. I thought that was so funny. In an episode that had a bunch of really funny kind of one-off shit that happens.
Oh, and again, that's one totally broke me, but you have to say that they probably shot like 15 different versions of them. I'm curious as to what some of the other sounds were. I hope someday they come out in a Blu-ray release or on the HBO Max or what have you. Anyway, it's about time to figure out what happened with Sally and the spaghetti, because I'm really curious about the spaghetti. And so we go back to the apartment and Sally's gone all out to please Barry. We see she's got him some beer, some spaghetti, a donut, and a new video game controller. Pretty good, right? She gets a call from Barry, who was completely over the moon because not only did he land the part on Laws of Humanity, he also got a part for Kusano. Sally wants to celebrate, and Barry says that he'll be home soon. Sally just wants to apologize and says that she wants Barry to be happy. Barry says that he's okay. Sally says, okay, and tells Barry that she loves him as Barry hangs up the phone. Again, just like you said, another phone conversation where Sally says it at the end and Barry hangs right up.
And how good is it here with Sally trying to figure out the controller? And I'm pretty sure she got an Xbox controller instead of PlayStation 3 controller. When I rewatched
last week, I thought it was PlayStation last week because you could the buttons are. I own a PlayStation. I've owned an Xbox before.
Well, and it was a black controller, and then this week it's a white controller. So I think she got the right one. But I love when she's saying connect to Bluetooth. How the fuck do you do that? It's just so good.
That hurt me right. And that's too real, dude. That's almost like that's too much truth for me, man, because dude. Bluetooth can be a fickle bitch. Let's just put it that way.
Oh, yes, it can. Yes.
And just again, they kind of do ignore, other than Sally kind of like, are you okay? Or whatever. They almost really ignore the entire massive confrontation that happened earlier. Even when Barry calls, it pretty much gets right to the good stuff. Like, Barry's like, oh, I got a part. He says, like, oh, for your controller? No, I got you a new one. We're like, no, I got a part of a TV show, Laws of Humanity. So like, wait, what? Oh my God, that's like a huge fucking show. Congrats. And then when Barry's talking about what the casting director said after he told him the story, his exact words were, that is fucking clean and rad and beautiful, bro. And Sally says, I can't believe that he said rad. They never say stuff like that. I was just
so good.
I was dying, dude. I was just absolutely fucking dying.
Do you sense a little bit of not jealousy, but just a little bit of that creeping in here with Sally? Like, where it almost feels like Sally wants to be in a codependent relationship a little bit in some degree. And if it just seems like a little bit of that's creeping in here.
And I think it's one of those things too, that she works really hard at this, and she's obviously a very good actress and everything. But it seems to her every time Barry like even half-ass tries, he goes to like some random place. He's sitting in the lobby. He gets an audition. He crashes to try to get a job for Gene. He gets a job. I think on some level she is just jealous of kind of like, why does this seem to come so easy to him and I have to kill myself to get it? And for Barry, it's the opposite. He's not even really trying, which is that's how it works kind of. Unfortunately, like a lot of times people, effort doesn't always get you there, and it kind of aggravates you when somebody else just kind of like, you try so hard at something you can't do it, and someone just effortlessly just steps in and gets it done, and it's just really frustrating. And it's we see that in all aspects of life.
100%, bro. We're back at his car in the next scene, and Barry opens up the trunk to tell Mr. Kusano the good news. Unfortunately for Barry, the trunk is empty, other than some fast food wrappers. Barry starts driving around looking for Gene, and Gene tries to avoid him by cutting through some backyards. He makes it over one fence, but struggles with the next one as he tries to climb over the fence, A never-ending pack of dogs rush at him. Hilarious moment. Gene manages to escape and approaches a waitress on her break outside of Mucho Mas. Gene looks exactly like a homeless person and he begs her for help. Despite the fact that Gene looks and sounds literally crazy, she agrees to call him an internet taxi. She points out an approaching car and says that it's his, and Gene realizes that it's actually Barry and turns and runs away. Barry attempts to follow but gets in a car accident, T-boned. Bam! Gene doesn't see Barry moving and he runs off into the distance. Bunch of good shit here, Magnum Mills.
And again, it's one of those things too that they shoot the scene with him in the backyard actually from inside of the house, where it's two women who are like been dating for like 5 years and they're breaking up because this woman has too many dogs. And then we get just the visual of it, and it's kind of like the Coolio Fantastic Voyage extended mix video where people keep getting out of the trunk for it's just literally 3 minutes of just people getting out of the trunk. The line of dogs running across the yard that we see while these ladies are breaking up to chase Kusanov is just a great. And then the argument between the two women, the woman one's like, oh, I'm working on myself, and you seemed appreciating that. No, I mean, I don't understand why you're leaving me. You have too many dogs. Who? You? Me? Yes.
Well, and it's just so good.
And you just see the dogs running the whole time. It's just perfect.
What I love about this, and again, it's the small things here, Magnum Mills, and this is spoiler work. This is going to be my favorite scene, but look, man, the little things when Gene first gets over the fence and runs, and he kind of stops in front of that window and the camera switches to them sitting, having kind of like an intimate, dinner or drink or conversation at a table. And this big ass spotlight turns on in the backyard.
The motion light turns on. The motion light.
And they don't notice Gene. And so then and you start to kind of hear some of their conversation. And then you see Gene run up to the fence, and then it goes back to the ladies talking. And then Gene can't climb the fence. And then he hears a dog, and then he literally, this, like you said, nonstop line of dogs, and then she drops you have too many dogs. This was just a awesome scene, dude. Like, absolutely loved it.
Yeah, again, the physical comedy is great by Henry Winkler, especially considering his age. And I'm not sure if it was him initially kind of get the opening shot kind of in the back. It's almost silhouette, but it reminded me just a touch of John Belushi and Bluto Butarski when he's kind of creeping around when they're trying to break into the joint in Animal House. Just that little kind of like sneaky, I don't know if that's what they were going for or not, play like that or whatever. And I didn't actually count, but I would believe that there were 30 dogs there. And a little bit of a spoiler alert, my favorite scene may or may not be when Gene talks to that waitress outside Mucho Mas. Dude, when he comes up.
Excuse me, little girl, I really need your help.
Oh my God, are you okay?
I'm being chased by a man who killed my girlfriend.
Oh my God.
Yeah, now he's trying to make up for it by getting me a job on a TV show. I don't have my phone. Could you please call me an internet taxi?
Is that your dog?
Oh no, that's just one of the 30 that mauled me. I'm a good person. I wanted to live, so I ate his sandwiches in the trunk.
It's so funny about it. He's literally telling the truth on everything, but it just sounds
the whole
absurd.
time it's like just chewing up.
And I love that. Shout out to the restaurant being literally much more. I mean, that's awesome. Great name, Mucho Mas.
I'm assuming it's a real LA restaurant. I'm assuming so.
Really, really, really cool, man. And great acting by the lady. Like, no, I have to work. Like, I have to go inside and work.
He really does look like literally like a homeless person and sounding like a crazy homeless person. So very nice of her to just, she paid for that Uber or whatever. So
that was great. We then see Gene arrive at Leo's home and loudly tells Leo to call the cops. We then realize that Barry is already there. Barry tells Leo that they had gone to an audition and Gene committed a little too hard. Gene denies that he ever mentioned the police and that Leo leaves the room. Barry motions for Gene to sit down on the couch next to him and his grandson. Barry tells Gene that the casting director was moved by their story and they both got parts. Gene is going to enjoy everything that comes with being given a second chance, because if he doesn't, Barry will kill his son and his grandson. Barry then says again, "I love you, Mr. Cousineau," and asks Gene to do the same. No other options. Gene says, "I love you, Barry." Barry then asks for him to say it again, and that's when the episode ends. Very, very wild scene here, Magnum Mills. I mean, again, little shit. Just one little thing I'll point out is the little thing where Leo's like, here, I got your tea right here, Barry. That's how the viewer realizes that Barry's already there. That was really cool. And then Barry, just with his arm around the grandson playing the video game. And as he tells Kusano to sit down, he's just tapping the couch behind where the grandson is. Just this little menacing thing of a total psychopath, but it's Barry. So it's like not as threat, but this was very cool.
And before we get into the mostly darkness of the scene, I just want to point out that dog followed Gene all the way there. He's in the background. You actually hear the son say, "Oh my God, a doggy." So, minor prediction here, but I'm saying that, that dog is now going to be Leo and Gene's grandson's dog. That lady had 30 dogs. I think she could probably give one up.
She'll probably notice knowing her, but I think she'll be able to handle 29. And she just made a great family dog for Leo and his son.
And probably not much of a guard dog, which they could really use right now. One thing that bothered me here is Barry got a fairly serious car wreck. It didn't look like he was moving. I know Gene was on foot, but I'm still kind of skeptical that Barry beat him there. It definitely happened. You could see the blood on Barry's head and everything. So I'm assuming he just hauled ass away from the accident and drove to Leo's house. Just guessing that's where Gene would go, and then didn't park in front because he would have think Gene would have noticed the car that he just ran away from and everything. So,
bro, that car was smoking. It did not look drivable.
And Barry was knocked out in theory. Like I figured he would have at least had to do a police report or something. So that was only, again, I'm not trying to nitpick too much, but it did. I like what they wanted. Who knows? Maybe you could say that this is Kusano. It took him 6 hours to get home or to get to Leo's. I just wish they would have pointed that out then, because you see that the grandson's still up and everything. He had the audition at 6, so you figure this happened 6, 7 o'clock or something. And for the grandson to still be up like that can't be any later than 9:30, something like that, right? So
yeah,
the timeline doesn't quite work out.
Yep. No. Good investigative skills there, Magnum Mills,
minor
regular
nitpick,
Watson.
Dude, scary as shit though, right?
Oh,
I mean, we've seen Barry go off the reservation, but this is 2 in this episode. First with Sally, and then here threatening to kill Gene's grandson.
Yeah, he's lost his shit completely, and it's in a way it's sad, man. You're watching somebody that really needs help, therapy. That's kind of an underlining thing here is the PTSD and the issues that Barry's character has from being Marine and in war, and this is just one of kind of the darker parts of the show, but they just do such a great job at bringing such a light element to balance out that dark, that to me it's one of the greatest successes of any show. But Barry just does it so splendidly.
Yeah, in the final couple of shots there where you're brought in real tight on Barry's crazy face, and then Gene's kind of just oh fuck face.
Yep.
It's just, Hader again, he's got the crazy eyes, and you realize Gene is kind of out of the frying pan into the fire, so to speak. He got out of the trunk, but Barry also heard him tell Leo to go to call the cops. So he knows that this is it. He has to basically do what Barry says, or very, 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 very bad things will happen.
It'll be a very scary Barry. And that is it. That's the end of the episode. And somehow, I don't know, Magnum Mills, we're still very chill. Before we get out of here, though, let's hit the highlights and whatnot. We can start by each giving out our favorite line or bit of dialogue from the episode. I will go first, Magnum Mills. For me, it's got to be when Cristobal is explaining the elite military and then does the bird sound. That literally broke me. I had to pause, rewind, rewatch it at least a couple of times. I think anytime I see that scene, I will laugh at it. It was just too good, dude. I mean, not only was it the sound, it was the the thing he did. I think he was trying to do talons. I don't know. It was really cool. Love that scene so much.
Yeah, there were so many here. There were so many just short pieces, the rental line, whatever. The man show line, the spaghetti line, the Bluetooth line. But I overall, because we kept talking about it, I have to go with the exchange between the casting directors.
Gene Kusano, that's your acting teacher? That's the guy that brought the loaded gun to the Full House audition. Yeah, when Allison didn't cast him on Family Ties, he called her a donkey witch.
we were asking to hear some Gene stories. We got some. Most definitely not disappointed so far. Just wish maybe we would have gotten a shout out as to say how Bob Saget reacted to the loaded gun on the Full House set. So not bad. And that brings us to our favorite scene or moment of the episode. And for me, it's easy. This is the scene with Gene and the waitress, dude. That whole, I mean, just like almost laugh to the point of tears. Funny. Loved every second of it.
Man, oh man, it was really good. For me, it's going to be that scene where Gene is running away, climbs the fence, ends up into the couple's backyard, and we have the scene with the dogs. I just that literally was just great. Where it almost reminded me of like a Mel Brooks type comedy moment. Like it worked really well, and one that stood out for me is my favorite moment. Now
Awesome.
it is time, Magnum Mills, for my favorite Dr. Dre / Barry reference featuring Hitman. That's right. This is when we talk about our favorite featured player in the episode, the best Hitman, who doesn't necessarily have to be even a man, just the best. But we're going to do something special this time, Magnum Mills. We're not going to give just one Hitman. We're featuring Hitmen. That's right, plural. We are doing our top 5 dead or alive. I'm going to go with number 1. And my number 1 rated guy, again, 1 the worst, 5 the best. I got to unfortunately put the guy, my dude, NoHo Hank, at number 1, Magnum Mills, because this was not a great episode for him, man. He got all excited and had the rush of trying to hide from his crew that he was going to visit his boyfriend all day, but made it seem like he had to run an errand way on the other side of town and was gone all day, to not being able to do that, to then realizing that not only is he breaking up with his boyfriend, who he's madly in love with and totally cockstrucked over, he then has to kind of basically go into a war with this crazy bird assassin thing. So that's a low spot to be. And so NoHo Hank, man, you're number 1 this week for me.
Honestly, that's my guy. Didn't even make my rankings this week, so he's lower than when he's a 0 for me. I'm sorry, NoHo Hank. My number 1 is actually Barry himself. He only gets on this list because he did actually manage to do what he set out to do. He got himself and Mr. Kusuno a job. Everything else he basically fucks up, but he got that one thing done. So that's worth, kind of being my 1-star actor there. Going up to number 2, I have to go with Sally. I give her credit. She held her shit together the whole time. And, they're working hard to get her show out. But I think she's under a tremendous amount of stress, and I'm worried about how she'll perform at that press junket tomorrow.
I am worried for her too. However, my number 2, Magnum Mills, is going to be Hank's boyfriend, soon to be ex-boyfriend, Cristobal. And my reasoning here, Magnum Mills, is this is a dude who was living his best life out in LA, was able to kind of have this spontaneous love with Hank, and you got to believe it's real. And he's out there doing his thing, and then all of a sudden his whole world changes. Fernando comes into the fold. We learn he has a wife and kids. There's going to be tremendous guilt that he's going to feel. And he now is no longer the dude in charge for the Bolivians. And he has to break up with somebody who really loves him, that I believe he really loves. Tough spot to be for Cristobal. He is my number 2 man. My number 3, Magnum Mills, is going to be the girl, lover, but that's Sally. Sally in this episode, she is cool, calm, collected, dealing with a bunch of shit. I'm not a fan of ever seeing anyone be like emotionally, physically, or verbally abused. And, it really sucked having to watch her go through that, especially knowing her history. But I love how she rallied and tried to do something really sweet for her boyfriend. She's just got so much on her plate that I too am worried about her, Magnum Mills. But somehow, some way, I think Sally manages to get by. She is my number 3 this week.
And my 3rd-star actor, my number 3 rank, whatever you call it, I'm going with the waitress outside of Mucho Mas, because she was great. And honestly, Gene rolls up. He looks, he's just been mauled by dogs. He has a dog currently mauling him, holes in his clothes, talking nonsense about somebody trying to kill him, but getting him a job on a TV show. And he asked her to, pay for an Uber. And now, have you seen Uber? Not cheap these days. And she does it. So shout out her. She did the right thing. She was looking out for our boy Gene. So I had to go with my number 3, that waitress taking her break, who orders Gene the internet taxi. Number 4, first time appearing, Fernando. Dude, Fernando just comes in and he wins. He got all these great lines. He's got his own bird/assassin squad. Cristobal's obviously scared of him. He's got this cool ass car with 14 cup holders. It's honestly a wonder he wasn't my 5-star. So Jamie G, who you got it for?
Man, that's really good, Magnum Mills. I love the non-main characters making their way into your fold. My number 4, I'm playing her straight here, Magnum Mills. My number 4 is going to be Barry himself. Look, man, I appreciate, even though he's having a manic mental decline, I appreciate him finding his purpose and attacking it with such a passion and such a focus that he literally is willing to do anything to achieve it. Just anyone who has that ability, to me, deserves to be recognized. I also like that he look, dude, he had him hostage in his car, but he was taking care of him. All right. Yes, he made him buy his own lunch, but he went in there, got his food, brought it out to him, and at the end of the day, he did get Gene the job. He also got a job himself, and he kind of ended this episode, I think, in a better place than where he began it, even though he had this whole weird, like, please tell me you love me thing, Mr. Cousineau. It's kind of like a daddy thing. I don't know. It's a little strange, but Barry, he's my 4 guy. My number 5, Magnum Mill, I've got to give it to Gene Cousineau. The dude just won every scene he was in. Almost every funny thing happened as a result of him. This show just has so many great, like, all 5 or 6 characters that are core are just hilarious. And, you just got to love how it works here. But Gene was awesome in this episode. Everything from the dog scene to the chase to being in the trunk to at the end, Gene just absolutely awesome. And clearly my number 5 guy.
I'm also going with Gene. A lot of the same stuff. Definitely get some of the best lines of the episode. But I also think from a plot standpoint, even though he's in a bad spot, he managed to get himself, at the end of the last episode, he's on his knees ready to be killed. Then he's in the trunk. Then this episode, he's in the trunk. He's now gotten out of the trunk and he's still alive. He's going to be on a TV show, and he managed to eat all that fast food in the back of the trunk. So I'm feeling Gene here. I think rolled the dice a few times. It's all coming up Gene. He's going to be walking a tight rope going forward to get out of this. But yeah, got to give it up as my 5-star, my top of the charts here, the best after this episode.
The 5-star Fonzie, Magnum Mills, the 5-star Fonzie.
And that brings us to the time of the episode that all the characters on Barry would care the most about, because we're going to watch a television show and then grade this bastard. So, Jamie G, we keep talking about Gene in honor of Gene Henry Winkler himself. We're going to grade the episode on a scale of 1 to 10 Fonzies. Fonzie's the coolest, so 10 Fonzies is the mega Fonzie, absolute best. For me, I'm going to go 8.8 Fonzies. It's a pretty big episode here. You have a lot of developments, especially with Barry kind of breaking bad against Sally. You have him getting a job, getting Gene a job. Gene's grandson has a dog. Sally got spaghetti. He's got a new video game controller. But seriously, a very entertaining episode. Pretty heavy, but still kind of light. Laughed a lot. Really enjoyed it. A little bit sad, but do enjoy new characters like Fernando. So 8.8 Fonzies. Jamie G, hit me with hit the jukebox with your Fonzies there.
Hey, man, oh man, this was very cool, Magnum Mills. I'm right there with you, bro. I know that I've been, feeling some of these episodes and all the different shows we're doing. And I've been feeling all these episodes, Magnum Mills. And guess what? I'm feeling this episode of Barry. I'm giving this thing 9 Fonzies. That's right. I'm giving it and because it's that cool. And dude, 9 Fonzies for me. Love it. All right, Magnum Mills, before I do what any good leader does and get us some internet taxis to get out of here, do you have any predictions for the next episode and or the rest of the season?
I think actually Hank is going to go back to Barry, because Barry was looking for a job before, and he's going to ask Barry to kill Fernando so that he can get back with Cristobal. So I think that was the one that jumped right out the gate to me. Any thoughts on that?
Love it. Could see that happening. I think Magnum Mills might be a secret writer for the show. They should hire him. That would be.
I was right that his solution was going to be to try to get Mr. Cousineau a job last week. I will say that.
100%, dude. You're batting 1,000 so far. We'll see if that keeps going. I think Gene's going to give up on trying to go to the police and either ride out this thing with Barry in terms of getting his new job and ultimately try to figure out a way to get even with Barry himself. Whether that means he's going to kill him, maybe. I think it wouldn't surprise me if they take such a light, fun character like Gene and place something really dark on him, like trying to kill Barry. That would be a cool contrast. I could see something like that happening.
Honestly, I would be kind of cool with a Looney Tunes type thing like we saw before when he tried to pull the gun and it fell apart. If he keeps trying to kill Barry and it just keeps going like hysterically wrong, I think I would be there for that. To the point where Barry's even like, oh, come on, Mr. Cousteau, quit trying to kill me. Like, it's just an annoying, like you'd swatted a fly or something. I'd love it to be that kind of level where Gene's really trying seriously, but he's just not good at this. I think that would be pretty great. Minor one, I think that they're going to both do Laws of Humanity. It's going to go over well. And so I think Cousteau will end up getting that part on Joplin at the end of the day.
I hope so, Magnum Mills. I think that would be really cool. And, I'm just going to say that I don't know that Sally, I'm going to say that her press junket does not go as good as she wants it to go.
Yeah, because I think she's in denial. I think it really depends. Does Barry come home that night or not? Like, is he too caught up? Because he films his shit the next day too now. Like they pointed that out for a reason. So they're not going to be able to emotionally support each other because they're each going to have their own thing going on. I think that's one of the reasons maybe they deliberately pointed out that the filming was going to happen the next day for that. Not a lot else here. I will say that the Katie who plays the daughter on Joplin, who we saw kind of in that scene with Barry be terrified there, I think she's going to Scooby-Doo this shit. She's going to get her Velma on, and she's going to be a thorn in Barry's side one way or the other going forward.
Any way possible, Magnum Mills, that Cristobal kills Fernando?
Yeah. I don't think so, but, if it happens, it's because Fernando's going to kill NoHo Hank. And so it's like one or the other, basically. You guys have to let him, like they're on, they're in the basement or whatever, and he's got the gun to NoHo Hank's, and his options are kill Fernando and like the other henchman or let NoHo Hank die. In that case, I think he would pull the trigger, do the deed.
Man, oh man. One thing I know, I cannot wait to see more episodes of Barry. Thank you guys for checking out the Barry podcast presented by the Joe Blow Football Show. We hope that you enjoyed it. We're doing our best to be a plastic bag blowing in the wind for you. Please remember to like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. It only takes a second, but it really helps us out so much. Magnum Mills, tell these beautiful people where they can find all of our totally awesome, free, super chill content.
Ooh, the beautiful people, Marilyn Manson. Ooh, not going to see him no more. And thank you very much, beautiful people, for checking out the Barry Podcast on your favorite podcast platform and on social media at Barry Podcast. We're from the Joe Blow Football Show, who you can find at joeblowfootballshow.com and on social media at Joe Blow Show. We're covering the final episodes of the show Ozark from Netflix. We're the Ozark Podcast on your favorite podcast platform at Ozark Podcast on social media. We just got done covering Peaky Blinders on PBP, a Peaky Blinders podcast on your favorite podcast platform and at Peaky Podcast on social media. We also continue to cover It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia on the Night Pod Cometh on social media and your favorite podcast platform at Night Pod Cometh. And we are wrapping up our coverage of the epic show Better Call Saul from Breaking Bad. We're Saul Over Soon on your favorite podcast platform and at Saul Over Soon on social media. Thank you again for listening or watching the Barry Podcast. Be sure to catch us next week when we cover episode 3 of season 3. Ben Mendelsohn. No idea if Mr. Mendelsohn will actually be appearing. And look for the episode of the Barry Podcast to drop on Wednesday, May 11th. We hope you enjoyed this, but if not, there's no need to worry. I'm pretty sure that people can change.
And that's some raw, unapologetic truth with a capital T right there.
This has been the Barry Podcast presented by the Joe Blow Football Show. This show is for entertainment purposes only. We are in no way, shape, or form affiliated with Barry, HBO, Alec Berg Inc., Han Arpley, or Warner Brothers Television. The views here are those of the hosts only, and they do not reflect those of any other person, organization, or entity. Thanks again for tuning in, and we're looking forward to seeing you on the next episode.